Can you?
Okay. So will we start? Okay. Now it's time. I think. Let's wait for 5 minutes. No, 5 minutes. Wait a second. Yeah. Yeah. Student will be joining now. So today we are going to deal with what? This brain tumor in childhood. Okay. I don't know how much you have gone through the CNS. So clinical pattern will be a little bit of obscure for you to explain. Anyway, we'll deal with the brain tumor in childhood. So you would be surprised, no? There will be brain tumor. Would there be a brain tumor in children? So let's see. They will have. So which one is to go down here? Okay, as usual, everyone knows it. Okay, introduction. I don't have to go again. Introduction, epidemiology, etiology, classifications, and then clinical presentations, differential diagnosis, management, and its outcome. That's within every topic and every it's a format. Okay, we're going to discuss. So for the year, just to make it a little bit of interesting, okay, I'll go with a small case, honest, a case detail, so could relate with the brain tumor a little bit of. You will be surprised to see this. A child could have a brain tumor. Okay, so this is just 30 years old female child from some Chiton. Okay, it's a long back, 65 years old, doing practices in Kanti Children's Hospital. So she came to what. She was a mother in reliability, which talk like that. Good. So how she presented to us, it was like abnormal gait for the last since 1 and 2 months, 1 or 2.5 months, and she was not able to stand on unsteady gait. And then finally, she last 1 or 2 months she could not stand on her feet. Initially, she's unstable gait, and which is followed by unable to stand the feet. What do you see here? The abnormality. Look. If you pay attention to it, she is very fine. Okay, look, amicable. Okay, she is very shy. Look at it. She's so happy looking. But you look at them. She cannot stand on it. Somebody is holding from back. You can see the picture because she could not now stand on her own feet. And then, if you look at it, facial structures somewhere, okay, something is, it's a little bit of prominence, that is head area. You see quite bigger, like you look a little bit bigger or something like that's what. No, I'm not going to detail what is happening. So this was the very short history. It's going to be related to your disease. Now we suspect something. There must be some head a little bit bigger. She cannot be. Let's do some imaging. Okay, sort of diagnostic tool, imaging, that is CT scan was performed in this. Look at this. We got something here. I'm going to show you. Look, this is posterior. Okay, you know the brain and how the brain is there. Anterior fossa, medial fossa, and then posterior fossa. Posterior fossa contains some cerebellum, midbrain. Okay, this sort of the brain stem. So here is some huge mass growing on babies, compressing the structure. That is cerebellum region she has got. That's the posterior. Look, huge. Now it has led to your CSF flows. Your ventricles, these are later third bit. This go down. So because of it has obstructed the pathway down, coming down the thing. So what happened? Obstructed, leading to obstructive sort of hydrocephalus with dilatations of what? Your ventricles got dilated. So obstructed. Here all become huge, no? These are the fleet inside your spinal. This is what the child was suffering. This child. This man was, look. Here is the one biggest. This is a notorious things growing inside. Can you imagine the children have this kind of, or this small baby? So there's no surprise to have that. You could have think about the childhood tumor also. So this is the message. So now we'll move into what is the basic. What are the types of tumors and how it was handled? We're going to talk about. This is the case. So one case, just to make the thing interesting. But this is what a single piece, that was Look, huge. These are dilated, no? All the ventricles. Look what ventricle dilated. Huge size. Normally, it's a very small slit-like structures. Because this mass is compressed on the coming down in third ventricles and down to the fourth ventricles and spinal cord. Somewhere it has compressed and it's not flowing back and it's dilated. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
And is it clear or something blur or something? What do you think? I don't have any feedback.
So clear.
Okay? You're audible,
Yes,
properly, listenable? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then I'll carry on. So now investigation shows, look, what are the CT scan of head down. They have commented like a lobulated cystic lesions in a right irregular, slightly irregular outline and enhancing mural. This is the descriptions. And a nodule in cerebellum. The suggestive of that's called astrocytoma is the one of them. Okay, you must have gone through your what pathophysiology, no? Pathology. Astrocytoma is kind of that is, we give name juvenile pilocytic. Okay, astrocytoma. This was the diagnosis was suggestive. This was class of along with the features of active obstructive hydrocephalus due to what? The mass that's growing in this mass affected. This is called pilocytic sensitivity, juvenile, young buckle, juvenile. Okay, this is because juvenile pilocytic astrocytoma suggestive of leading to obstructive hydrocephalus due to mass effect. This was the investigation. So this was the diagnosis. It made unfortunate we would diagnose, but it was unfortunate the baby, the growing baby looked how happy baby looking, but she is having something growing in the back in your mouth, back in your, inside the cranial vault. That's the brain. So this is unfortunate children. Now we'll move into, before we get into, the structure of brain, you should be reflecting on the brain, how does it look like? This is, structures are bones, this is cortex, okay? This is corpus callosum, all this cerebellum, this is structure, this is a sagittal section. So what derivatives you must be knowing from the embryological point of view? Prosencephalon, mesencephalon, or mencephalon, okay? Telencephalon end and diencephalon are derived from the prosencephalon, mesencephalon, midbrain from the mesencephalon or mesencephalon, and rhomencephalon, and then further divided into meten and myelencephalon, okay? Which gives rise to meten, gives a pons, and then cerebellum, whereas medulla. Okay, this is medulla. Pons and this backbone is given by the medulla. As a rhombencephalon is finally. So these are the structures you have to reflect it where now the disease might arise. Okay, pathological, and then its structures will like this, and clinical manifestations would be there. This is just to remind. So introductions. Okay, look, this is the big primary. Most of the time we have the primary scene. It's not secondary most. Primary central nervous system tumor. This is a brain tumor. It's kind of this heterogeneous sort of group of diseases, not uniform. Okay, one particular heterogeneous group of diseases, which is the second most in children. Now you'll come to know the second most, followed by first what? Blood malignancy. That is leukemia. As the first, second, that is a brain tumor. Now you'll get surprised to say, oh, children will have the brain tumor in second place. So overall mortality nears 45 once you diagnose. Now the children look outcome and highest morbidity, especially in the world. Neurological point of view, maybe, okay, you have so neurological deficit will be leaving behind morbidity. And this is the disease usually what? Primary means that the cells are not from secondary means what? Metastatic, metastatic is the secondary, but the primary, this is not secondary, this is primary is most of it. This is just introduction. If you look at any cancer, you don't have specific, okay, any specific, okay, etiological increment or so that's not well understood how its disease arises, but we know okay, there are some familiar or hereditary syndromes also included 5%. Some maybe history of the secondary like the radiations exposed to cranium, okay, or sporadic cases in family, but there's no clear-cut causes, etiological point of view, to this to find out that etiology. We don't have any, you know it, that is. So not well understood, obscure. So briefly looking at an epidemiologically, what 25, this is Western data, we don't have pediatric, not as such good data. So 25, 21 is just yearly in 2200, somewhere yearly diagnosed, 21 cases in older children, less than 736 per million, not that often, but 1 million 36 cases, less than 7 years, 9. If a second line looks less than 19 years old, overall incidence tends to be 28 cases in a million, okay, as a whole. So disease pattern, you can know that become medulloblastoma and ependymoma. We'll talk about later on. Just male is more okay than female. This is epidemiology. Now you have to get into the histological sections. The WHO sometimes divides on organisms, classify them. What sorts of the diseases would be like then histological point of view. There's more than 100 slides, but here from practical point of view, 5 categories comprise, which comprise 80% of all pediatric brain tumors. Those are the following in one, we call it astrocytoma, which is juvenile pallicytic with JPA, okay, juvenile tumor, which constitutes around 20%, medulloblastoma second, or primary neuroectodermal embryonal tumor / of that constitutes around 20%, diffuse astrocytoma 14%, ependymoma 7 to 10%, remaining like 7-10% like craniopharyngioma. These are the 5 top categories which comprise of 80% of the pediatric. Unclassified like the 7% germ, classified 7% germ cells, choroid, plexus. These are less than 1, okay, 1 or 1%. So this is the just rough, more or less the pictures of them, which is practically weird. Not all 100 histological point of view. So this is for histological point of view. Now for the clinical also we have to very important to describe this. Where is the locations? The tumor is growing, localized. You must be knowing from the anatomy. There's a tentorial, okay. So from the tentorial marker, okay. There is some tentors, no. I cannot show here somewhere, Hello. So there's a tentor, somewhere. So we describe this. Sometimes the brain can be supratentor or infratentorial. Okay? So location-wise, 43% the point units, more in infratentorial small children. Okay, supratentorial 40 to small children. Spinal cord, let's say 5% around. So multiple sites, 8 to 10. So this is the distributions of the tumors. Later on, we will have clinical impact and what are the structures involved. You can figure it out. So age is wise, age is also like 1 year of age and below 1 year. 1 year. The most of the time, supratentorial sort of. So what are those supratentorial? Choroid, plexus, tumor, and teratomas. This is prevalence. It is supratentorial. Whereas now the infratentorial between 1 and 10 years, above 10 years, again supratentorial. Okay, this is what the distribution usually describe. So infratentorial is juvenile pallicytic, okay, astrocytoma and medulloblastoma. Supratentorial diffuse astrocytoma. Other parts like optic pathway, we have hypothalamus, brainstem, okay, pineal, tumor. These are the common in children, but these are the visual pathway. These are not the torrential or subtentorial. Okay, thalamus. These are called midline structures. Okay, sort of brain tumor. Supratentorial. This is a classification. No? So because it is easy to tell you now what sort of supratentorial and infratentorial, there will have some clinical features you can make it out. Like depends on the site, type, and age. Okay, now is where it will be. Site will be what sort of tumor will prevalent. So supratentorial is how they will present to you. Supratentorial, okay. So those tumors will likely Focal season and cortical region. Focal disorders like motor weaknesses, sensory changes, speech problems, is an upper part of the your tenter the upper side. Their structures quite different and functional. You should be knowing these are related. Structural, functional. Okay. Functional wise, sensory losses, speech loss, look, motor weaknesses, means your limbs are not moving, hand are moving the upper means. Or maybe seizure, you could have some small reflex abnormalities. You do some reflexes, or abnormal reflexes. Subtle personality changes maybe in early adult, maybe because it's a supratentorial and cortical thing. Personality changes, some classic signs, okay, classic signs symptoms. Personality change like he is maybe different, okay? Behavior will change, subtle personal change which may occur before the signs and symptoms of the supratentorial. A small infant is sometimes a hand preference 18 months with a bidextrous. They don't have any preference hands. They can either use both hands. Give me this and that. But when we grow up like 18 months after that, then we will prefer only one hand, right, support dominant which hand. So the early the infant started dominant one hand only. That means hand preference means, okay? A small kid, some 6 months baby, or come to your 1 year baby, only using one hand. That's preference, hand preference, and it should not be there. So maybe some neurological problem. Now, it's supracellular area. You know that what anatomical structures there, supracellular. So neuroendocrine. Okay, diabetes, neuroendocrine, diabetes insipidus, galacturia, pubertal disorders, hypothyroidism. Because cellular region, what is it? Can hypothyroidism or hypophysis structures, So diencephalous region, they will finish the failure to thrive, emaciated, increased appetite, and euphoric. These type of pictures. You must have heard of the paranoid syndromes in superior cortical where you have some disturbances. Paranoid syndrome is upper gaze, eye movement, okay, disturbed. So now comes the supra, okay, and then supracellular. Infratentorial tends to be like something is growing in your infratentorial. That is in posterior most of the time when it comes to the posterior what? There is a fossa, which contains most of the smell is quickly develops what? Something's growing then likely to block your CSF or maybe likely to get quickly develop what? Pressure in the brain. That's an intracranial pressure. So they might have classic triangle may have complained of headache. Older babies, otherwise small friend can't be. They will be. So nausea, vomiting would have a complaint of nausea, vomiting. And if you look at the eye, back of the eyes, you can see some edema is going. This is a papillary edema because the pressure is coming to your transmitted to your eyes in the back of your eyes. That's right. So that's a papillary edema. Along with you could have the equilibrium problem because cerebral is a gate like the children that she was suffering from. Okay, equilibrium, that is balance, gait coordination. Maybe they present something like torticollis. Okay. Blurred vision because the area where the structure is like brain stems are there, your cerebral function may look the nystagmus, and then multiple cranial nerve is in the brainstem area. You can see and gaze pulses, multiple cranial nerve pulses, and which is usually, and then we have upper motor neuron type of deficit, neurological deficit. Motor. If you look at the motor, there's a tension. Upper motor neuron. I don't know how to tell you upper motor. That will have clinical manifestation, like you can differentiate. Hello, mute. Somebody's mic is there. Somebody mic is disturbing me. Hello. Upper motor neuron sort of that usually. So clinical core, spinal. Excuse me. I meant to say spinal cord or spinal cord disseminated brain tumor. Spinal cord, if you get down to, okay, this one. We'll have long track motor or sensory deficit will be there, bowel and bladder, could involvement by incontinence or like that, this side. And or maybe incontinence as well as sometimes maybe we have a holding or back or radicular pain, back side nerve involvement, sometimes you could have back pain, okay? The spinal cord. Sometimes meningeal metastasis from the brain tumor or some meningeal brain from brain tumor, cellular metastasis to meningeal, okay? Could have this time you will have what type of clinical management? Similar to you can have like infertility, what will happen? Vomiting, headache, okay? This sort of pictures will be there. So this is about the clinical manifestations, and depends on them which area, okay, the tumor is involving in which area, okay, of your brain. And then more or less you can say that this area now exactly what is there, that depends on the further investigation will clarify. So what would be the differential? Patient can come, okay, comes to you with this sort of complaint, and also you should make some differential diagnosis. I have some problem with you. You should have some problem with your brain or my central nervous system. I should make that some differential diagnosis. First, we will take some other space occupying lesions are there, like congenital cyst, okay, neurocystic sarcosis growing in, brain abscesses could be there, or tuberculoma, or a huge tuberculoma, small but it must given this kind of thing, but a little bigger. So secondary metastasis like leukemia, lymphoma, other malignancy could give rise. That is metastasis, okay? Especially leukemia and lymphoma tends to get metastasis to your brain. Or others like the hydrocephalus, sole hydrocephalus, or sometimes you have to rule out seizure disorder. Sometimes they may come up with the history of or complaint of seizure, no? So you have to think all those things in the back of mind before you put in that only the brain tumor. But is there any other specific, because in any part, same part, so how would you diagnose? Because of course we'll go for that complete history, what it is, okay? And then physical examination, no doubt. But don't forget to look at in your back of eyes with the retina, ophthalmoscopy, looking at the back of your retina, okay? There will be the edema, okay? Papillary edema. Look for the ICP raised conditions and giving rise to some papillary edema, okay? Now finally you have to look into what is there inside your brain. Is there something morphological changes which is given by the CT scan, or maybe, or can we depend on them, or which modality would you like to use, like CT scan or MRI? So primary tumor to rule out, like supracellular, like these are the structures. So would you like the neuroimaging? Sometimes you need a hormone, as like gonadotropin hormone, thyroid hormone, growth hormone, because then cellular region might have a problem to have endocrinology. So we have to look at any hypothyroid, or maybe some other hormonal problem, which is usually central origin. You know the function of the hypothalamus hypophyseal. Sometimes you have to do we can test for the not only blood, sometimes blood you can send, okay, or you can use a cerebrospinal fluid. So that means you have to do a LP when a lumbar function to get the CS. Not all the brain tumor will be done, but certain tumors will be I'm talking about, especially germ cell tumor. Okay, germ cell tumor, you can look at the beta HCG, okay, gonadotropin hormone, you know, it will be produced by the germ cells in the brain, so which can be tapped in CSF, okay, cerebrospinal fluid, and alpha fluid in the blood, or maybe even CSF. But beta is special for the germ. Other tumor, okay, doesn't record the same. So LP is very, very cautious, not to be done in anybody occupying lesion, okay, space occupying lesion. So contraindication, obstructive hypercephalus develop or infratentricular sort of tumor, they don't do again perform the lumbar function. Maybe it will give you what? The brain may shift down because the pressure is developing your brain. Cranial wall inside the brain is swollen, maybe okay, pressure. So you try to tap from the spine back. You just release the pressure. So may come down to your where? Foramen of magnum. Okay, foramen magnum, your spinal cord may come down. That's coning of brain. Okay, there you have severe. Okay, the notorious consequences. You may lose some temperature. So this is very, very careful procedure. So it's a brain tumor. It's not only got it without looking at. So brain biopsy, we don't. Okay, brain biopsy can be done, but it's not often. So treatment modality. I'm talking. These are all the general. We'll come in one by one, but this in general we're talking about the brain tumor, how it is clinical. It depends on lesion. Okay, it depends on the site where they are growing, and then modality of investigations, and then modality of treatment. Basically, surgery, if possible, is rejected. Okay, if it's not, then combinations of the right radiation therapy. This will be blended with, but basically surgery. Okay, if it's approachable to your brain, just remove it. So now we'll come. This is just general outlook of the tumor. How you make it. Okay, some ideas about the brain tumor in children, how they manifest and how should I do. So now, but further now we have a little bit detail over now each. It's okay. Tumor will be going to deal with. Briefly, we'll going to deal with now histiocytoma. This is the one sort of thing. This is heterogeneous group of pediatric histiocytoma. Now the cells will go involved there. Heterocytoma, pediatric CNS tumors near which 40% constitute the histiocytoma. It must be in histology. And then pathology is most commonly in the childhood. Indolent infection. The course is very slow. It's not very clear. So high grade. Usually when go this histiocytoma, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, you must have now reflect in your histology. Grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 4. Like more in our case, anaplastic cytoma, these are grading now. 20% grade. Anaplastic cytoma, glioblastoma, GVM must be an adult version. These are adult versions and more malignant and more aggressive. But the first two, okay, these are histiocytoma courses, which is one is with cytoma. So histiocytoma, cells the gliosis is histiocytoma. So histiocytoma. So how they present you that would be similar picture here also. Look. This baby was in a grade 1. Okay, this is grade 1. The most common glial in the children. Which counts around the 20% of the brain tumors, and there is no discrimination with the gender, okay, male or female, can occur anywhere in the CNS. Okay, anywhere. But most classic family cerebellum, which was in outpatient also, this is the area, no? Posterior for some. This cerebellum, and here is growing something. And then pushing here and there and blocking the cerebral fluid. So other sites you can have hypothalamic, third ventricle, and uptake, but cerebral is a classic site, which is notable in our case. So benign is usually low metastatic and rarely invasive. They are not invasive. Okay, infiltrative, then it's a low metastatic potential. So usually, so optic pathway. If you go, then it would like to travel through your pathway that is leptomeningeal spread. Rarely undergoes malignant transformations. So sometimes you could have associated with neuroNF. You must be knowing of that. Neurofibromatosis is type 1 type. Type 1, and 15% when this like the neurofibromatosis. What there is a cafe outlet spot, no? Cafe outlet. So those are patients you must be thinking about. Oh, brain is related to the brain because they are neuroectodermal origin. Brain is also neuroectodermal. So no genetic abnormalities. But the self-ligament, no cytogenic abnormalities. If you take this biopsy, you see that there's no histological changes. This is how type 1. Clinical features, now you have to include. I'm not going to tell all infratentricular tumors, how they will present. No, I've already described in clinical manifestation, infratemporal headache, vomiting, and all that depends on the area, like some grade or visual. You have to add. So where it is cerebellum, then definitely you will have unsteady gait. No? The patient baby who is having same kind of unsteady gait. Okay, finally she was not able to stand on her feet. Okay, infratemporal. Maybe she was not complaining, small kid with diarrhea, vomiting, headache, because it's not good verbalized. Maybe she may be complaining of headache, but she cannot express. Maybe the small kid maybe was a headache, or maybe nausea, vomiting. If you look at the back of the eyes, you might have papillary. So another is microscopy diagnosis. That's really says you get the sample, then microscopic histology horizontal fibers. That is, these are the glial cells or glial filament in the compact area. Okay, there are some cytoplasmic inclusion of this nucleus with the fibers is not visible. So horizontal fiber you have. Other things. If MRI is done, look here, look some contrast. The contrast made enhancing the nodule within the cystic mass. Okay. There is a contrast. Now similar, this is next we'll move into the another is grade 2, no? Astrocytoma grade 2. This is small kid, so that's what we're talking about. First astrocytoma further divided, for grade 1, grade 2, grade 2. So grade 1 has an pilocyte. So grade 2 is again most common, followed by the grade 1, aggressive, then the earlier one JPA, juvenile parasitic, grade 1, quite invasive. Potential transformation into the malignant cytoma is likely to go into the malignant. If you look at that, cytogenic abnormality can be found. So you can differentiate like this into type 1, type 2. Okay, grade 1, grade 2 cytoma. So mutations occurs in the P53, okay, protein, and then PDGF, that is a platelet-derived growth factor alpha chain and some receptor. These are cytogenic abnormalities can be. So that's how you differentiate between the two. Histological, again, there are some cellular atapism, hypercellularity, resins of hypercellularity, which is not much not differentiating one. So lack of, another is if you do then there's no lack of contrast enhancements, and if you see that there's no anything. Where there's no contrast in. So now this is your that was same diagnosis which made in. Like now, how would you proceed it for the management? Okay. So multimodal, of course, we discussed in earlier, surgical, radiations, and whichever is favorable, we have to. But mostly we have the surgical approach. If it is resectable or accessible, okay, then it would be the mainstay along with the radiation and chemo. Surgical rejection is possible. Reject it completely. Complete over survival tends to be 80-100%. This is a benign sort of grade 1. Partially, if you're not resectable, sometimes we cannot reach there. Okay, difficult approach. So let's suppose partial, then survival also comes down 40 to 90%. Depends upon the site. But so closer follow-up, because it may progress, I can re-resect, and you have to resect it. Resect. That's the mainstay of treatment. If it's not, then of course not feasible to resection. You are left with other options like that is radiation. Which gives you doses of like the 50 to 60, okay, great, daily for 6 weeks to that bed of the your tumor. This is how you be given. And variable survival rate like 33 tends to from 33 to 75. How good, okay, yeah, we have the radiation he has given to them. So JP has, that means grade 1 has better outcome than the, okay, fibrillary, that's a grade 2. Okay, it's evolving in a sense. It has evolved because the radiation is hazard in its growing children brain. You cannot, it's because it has damage to the other part of your brain. So growing children is not good. But so that's what trying to develop what chemotherapy. But several chemotherapy evaluated under 5 years with the survival success came. Complete response is okay. Just to prolong the disease, not cure, to control the disease to some place, tending to 70 to 100%. It's not effective in midline tumors, the hypothalamic, optic chiasm, these midline structures, which is not very effective. Chemo insensitive. Which drugs? Carboplastin based, scheduled with low Okay, Lumsdays, you can write down under 10 years. Benzplastins under the way. Temozolomide, okay, zolamide under with the radiation. There's also trial versions. So carboplatin, lemestins used under 10 years. This is what. Now, other great third and fourth is very quickly. These are the adult versions. Okay, the more you go, more the malignant and more adult population you will see. So basically, of course, treatment remains still. Surgical resection followed by radiations. Okay, as improved survival is noted in the combination of the radiations and chemotherapy. Lomustine and vincristine. Okay, these are radiation. So now another cell, you know, we must be knowing ependymoma, which constitutes 10% of the CBT childhood. Mean is 10 years, 6 years somewhere. Mostly posterior fossa. These are 70% the posterior fossa. That means this area. Infratentral, which is 1/10 of the tend to leptomeningeal spread. They will not only stay inside, but they may, along with, through the leptomeningeal pathway, they may 1 of the 10 cases, when it's 1% or so, they like to spread outside the cranial wall. So clinical, of course, you have to write that posterior fossa syndrome. Is it posterior fossa? What will happen? That is infratentral or posterior fossa, and quickly, okay, headache, vomiting, nausea, and all the structure involved. So that's what I have already mentioned before, how to write clinical manifestation. So now I'm going to everyone in detail. So MRI, contrast enhanced complex structure without any cystic lesion here. Cystic and okay, contrast with the complex structure. Surgical and okay, now SRC, the surgical resection possible, if not, then combined with the radiation and chemotherapy. Another cell, you know, oligodendroglioma, okay, oligodendrocyte, that's only dendroglioma. And mixed glioma. These are uncommon. It's not common as though they're like the astrocytoma. This is uncommon, but infiltrating white matter origin. There's white matter, okay. Predominantly cerebral cortex. Clinical, of course, you have to see the seizure, neocortex seizures, personal changes, cortical dysfunctions. These are. CT scan, if you do, we'll get it. Get calcified cortical masses with seizures, okay? Calcified structure also with history of seizure. Treatment as astrocytoma we did in the beginning. If a mixed sort of glioma, which is very, very rare. Now another layer, you must have heard the choroid plexus, or choroid plexus and ventricle, okay? Intraventricle, lateral, okay? Lateral, most of the lateral ventricle epithelial, this sort of epithelial neoplasm from choroid plexus supratental. This is tental, right? These are the supratental and tental neurons. So these are supratental, again, these areas of supratental, whatever it grows, these are. So most of the small infant, is basically less than 1 year infant is growing something. Mass in the lateral ventricle, you say, okay, these are the. Oh, is this the choroid plexus tumor? Mm-hmm. So variant you don't have right with the papillomas, or mostly 1, and carcinoma, WHO classified carcinoma 3 type, okay? We give it name 3. Grade 1, papilloma sort of, right? Papilloma, which constitutes 2 to 4% of the childhood, less than 1 year. Most of the 10 to 20% infancy usually have this sort of disorder. Sometimes associated with the Lee-Frohman syndrome. Is it caused by what? Suspected, again, query. Simian viruses, SV40, query. That's not right. Clinical features, okay, there's of course increased cranial pressure, ICP raised conditions, features like nausea, vomiting, and this sort of blurring of vision, papillomatum. And then, of course, diagnosis definitely will be structure. You can see with using MRI, well circumcised. How do you see? Well circumcised lesion, a well circumcised lesion inside the lateral ventricle. Okay, these are the. And then for the immune marker, you can use like transthyretin manure. So that's a pre-albumin. Okay, transthyretin or pre-albumin is the same as an immunomarker in the blood. So is it possible to reject? Okay, if resectable, reject it for the 100% is good outcome. But if it's not carcinoma variant, okay, papilloma variant 100%, okay, rejectable. Carcinoma sort of is not good, 20 to 40% outcome. So this is a choroid, okay, small, less than 1 infant or monthly. You have to think about this. Primary, this is now PNET, okay? Primary neuroectodermal tumor or maybe the embryonal tumor, whatever it is, the PNET. The most common, this is also constituting with 20 to 25% of the child. Age 5 to 10 years, male little slightly predominance of female. Metastatic potential does exist in the extracranial. Okay, medulloblastoma is the one prototype we can say is a medulloblastoma. Ependymoblastoma, suprarenal, these are, but prototype is medulloblastoma. 90% of them, they line midline come cerebellar vermis. Okay, vermis, there are so many structures are vermis, cerebral structures. So 1/3 of the cases they would metastasize. Okay, metastasize. Metastatic potential. So clinical, the posterior, again you have to write about the posterior fossa sigmoid, okay, posterior infradental, okay, as a posterior fossa syndrome with ataxia, because cerebellar is involved, or maybe the cerebellar vermis, no, ataxia, gait, unsteady gait. So you can use modality CT MRI, okay, solid homogeneous mass will be detected. Here, I think. Possible. Is it possible? 60-70% overall outcome with combination of surgical, right, and radiotherapy chemotherapy. Outcome tends to 60%. Now, lesson for your dissemination. All eliminated. Okay, that means metastasis and poor prognosis. Oh, medulloblastoma. Now another is supracellular variant. Supracellular. Okay. Cellular toxicity, you know, what structure there is. Germ cell tumor, okay, the germ cell tumor is heterogeneous primary, these are the midline structures and midline tumors when you call it. The midline, supracellular and pineal, these are the two regions. Supracellular and pineal region, okay, 1 to 2%. It constitutes in the peaks around the 10 to 20 years or 12 years of age. Male a little bit more, and more in Asian, okay, populations. Germinoma is good. If it is in germinoma variant, it's a good 90%. Mixed outcome is unfavorable. Clinical, of course, you have hormonal, glycemic beta-amyloid, because cellular region, you know, you will have a hormonal problem. Growth hormone or gonadotropin hormone, or maybe pituitary syndrome. And you could have, now another thing is, one thing is you have to mention, it's a visual problem, that is visual. You have the chiasmatic, okay? You must be remembering the optic chiasma that goes there somewhere, okay, from the thoracic sclera. So if growing something and they may be pressing your track, so give rise to some visual loss, that is particularly in what we call field of vision will defect, bitemporal homogeneous, okay, homonymous sort of temporal loss, okay, what field of vision. So clinical manifestation, this is how you have to mention, and they may complain with an visual loss or some and have some hormonal pictures, disorders picture. So of course we have the same for then AFE Alzheimer's alpha fetoprotein as well, and beta SAG I mentioned in earlier. This is special for germ cell tumor, germ cell tumors. And biopsy is that possible, then you do it, and then this can be sent beta SAG by LP, CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid, can be drawn and can be sent for the test. So now another say, of course, as mentioned earlier, surgery is the mainstay, plus minus what? Radiation. If chemotherapy and radiation mixed tumor, we have the 40% of 5-year survival. This is very rare sort of the pineal, okay? Pineal, parenchymal tumor, these are the very rare area, most common after the pineal area, after the germ tumor, but pineoblastoma more malignant. Penocytoma, surgical resection, these are the combination of surgical resection, 70% of the 5-year survival. This is the pineal parenchymal. Now, another is very important. You must be knowing you will be dealing with ENT in the next. Craniopharyngioma tumor, okay? It's quite common in semi-small kids, 70 supracellular, okay, region. There's a cellular, there's supracellular here somewhere, which arises from the rachis and pouch origin. It is embryologically, we have the rachis, that means. and which tends to be cystic to solid and minimal. It has a little bit of not so invasive, but minimal invasive tendency it does have. So this is cystic, the solid is constituted, but its character is likely what? Invasive but minimal. So of course you know that the structure, what are the structures they contain, you know that is usually pituitary gland will be there. So pan-hypopituitarism likely to happen because it destroys then your, okay, expands in this area. And then, okay, there was a failure to thrive, and that visual field loss, I mentioned even that's a visual problem because the track, which track? Optic track passes by. If you do remember the neuroanatomy. So CD scan, how you diagnose? Calcification, solid and cystic wall with some calcification in this area. Okay, particularly this area. This area is where understood with the midline and sagittal section. You see the structures in here, maybe something. Then is this what? Carinopharyngioma, a small head. It's a small lesion, okay, reject it, curative. If complex, it's not accessible because it's in a complicated department. So when there's surgical, try to remove it. If it's not possible, of course, we are left with your radiation. Chemotherapy doesn't, okay, that was midline structures are very insensitive to your chemotherapy. These cells are not sensitive, so that does not have any role of chemotherapy. Another is meningioma. It's very rare in small kid, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there is. Okay. Most of the female with the more. Which cell is involved? That is arachnoid, arachnoid cells. The layer cells of cell. The cell is meningioma. That is arachnoid. Okay, arachnoid cells proliferation leading to meningeal layers. This meningioma, very slow growing nature. Okay, benign sorts of. Usually this is associated with a neurofibromatosis type 2. Wasn't mentioned one earlier. This is type 2. Okay. Basal cell nevus. Some exposure to the radiation and secondary to malignancy. All these are associated with meningioma in your way. Okay, meningeal layers, especially arachnoid cells. So of course, this is a benign. We can access it, remove it with the help of surgery to meningitis again, and then radiation is likely to get, but chemo, as mentioned, is insensitive again, meningioma. So finally, we arrive where the tumor of brainstem. All the structures come brainstem. Okay, there is a brainstem area. You would have heterogeneous sort of, which comprises 10 to 50% of the childhood tumor. They could be like classified focal, dorsal, okay, cervicomedullary, diffuse intrinsic, okay, intrinsic. These are the, but how they will manifest this if it's the brainstem? They're usually motor weakness, cranial nerve palsy, like palsy. How they will manifest? Like your eyes not able to, or maybe your one side is dropping of your faces, like this. Neurological manifestation difficult to explain you in 6 semesters. So weakness in your legs and arms, okay. So they will come to raised features of the raised intracranial pressures, like vomiting or supracellular, okay, cerebral and ataxia. This depends on where it's, but it's a brainstem, okay, area is brainstem. So definitely we'll do for the MRI, if possible, biopsy for the one end, first end. Second is focal dorsal expansion children. 1 and 2 is surgical. 3 and 4 for the chemo, which is difficult. Okay, this chemo, which is not a poor prognosis again. So now left, these are the primary tumors. Now the left, we could have some secondary tumors which may coming to your brain. This which is uncommon is small. Okay, it's metastatic. That's metastatic tumors. Okay, it's uncommon. Like then we have, okay, leukemia, no? Lymphocytic leukemia. ALL, NHL, okay, Hodgkin lymphoma, or they have spread to the left meninges, and then they don't have obstructive sort of, but communicating sort of hydrocephalus. There is the type you must be knowing of. Obstructive, communicating, or non-communicating. So this is communicating sort of. All the ventricles will get dilated. That's communicated. Chloroma can be observed in AML, okay, acute myelocytic leukemia, okay. In they travel through neuroaxis, okay? They travel through neuroaxis. This is how they get through your CNS. Rarely parenchymal, okay? These are the parenchymal structure, mean it rarely goes, okay, metastasis. And those would be like, those tumor will be like, malignancy will be like lymphoma, neuroblastoma, Ewing sarcoma of the bone and small kidney, Ewing sarcoma, so on. This will may directly infiltrate your parenchyma, but those are the leptomeningeal spreads, the upper two one, leukemia, chloromegaly, neurolepsis. So of course the treatment for this one, how you manage, because of course the first you have to treat then your primary disease, and then secondary disease is infiltrated, and you will take care of it, and chemotherapy and radiation will left it. So this is secondary tumors. Sorry, what do I say? So at the end, to wrap up the lecture, so just the gist of this, what you have. This is heterogeneous sort of, okay, so no homogeneous. Second most, remember that childhood tumor, brain tumor. Brain tumor primary is more, not secondary. I like the metastatic. And few have potential to go extracranial metastasis through the leptomeninges. Those are the MEG, short meningioma, ependymoma, and what is this? Germ cells, okay, and short term MEG, and significant morbidity and mortality, of course. And then neuroimaging, hormonal biopsy possible. Then LP sometimes needed in some certain cases like germ cell tumor, beta HCC can be sent. Ultimately, it is the mainstay of the treatment will be surgical rejection to remove the tumors and neoplasm, open new groove. In the most cases, if not possible, then we are left with the what? The radiation. And chemo is very less role in it. So here we conclude our lecture. If you have any question, you can ask me. If no, then I will say thank you for your kind attentions. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Oh.